Hey there, and welcome to Crushing with Abby O. I'm your host, Abby O'Sullivan. This podcast is inspired by over 10 years in the beauty industry and the stories shared between a beauty professional and her clients. The type of girl talk that only happens behind closed doors or in the chair. Along with hilarious stories based on real life and the dating world, I'll be dishing out all of the secrets on self-care, health, and fitness. As a longtime lash extension artist turned health and fitness coach, I'm passionate about helping you view healthcare as self-care through nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, movement, stress management, and more. So grab a drink and a snack and come join me for a laugh. On today's episode of Crushing with Abby, we have a very special guest, Mr. Nick Reill. He is the founder of the Reill Company, author of Sleep Secrets, and creator of the ELH method. With 15 years of experience in the fitness and nutrition industries, Nick has dedicated his professional life towards helping others improve their health and well-being by setting a foundation of high sleep quality and aligning your lifestyle to one's biology. Nick really just wants you to get the best sleep of your life so that you can live your best life. And our conversations are always interesting, so I know you'll enjoy it and get plenty of tidbits, information, and knowledge from this episode. Enjoy. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super happy to be here once again in your graces.
Well, I appreciate you being my very first guest on the Crushing with Abby O podcast. What are you having to drink there today?
It is definitely a Dutch Bros Annihilator.
Annihilator, I love it. That'll get you going, right, for your day.
Tastes good. Caffeine doesn't do jack shit to me anymore, so I drink it for the taste. It's delicious.
I admire people who have that tolerance for that, like, natural tolerance for caffeine. I do not have a tolerance for caffeine. It's very low. My tolerance is very low, in fact.
I mean, I started drinking caffeine probably like what a lot of people would say, like way too young, at like the ripe age of like 13. And it wasn't just like I pulled the general high school, let's get a Frappuccino on Friday stuff. No, I was walking in with like 2 monsters a day. Because back when, at least I was in high school, that's what you did in high school. Everybody had monsters. Everybody did. You always had to have the latest and greatest one. So when they came out with the, it was labeled the BFE or the BF, it was something. It was this big, BFC. I'm pretty sure it stood for big fucking can. Because this thing had like 4 regular monsters in one can. It was absolutely ginormous.
So instead of like 40s of beer, you're walking around with a 40-ounce monster.
Pretty much. That's a really good way to describe that. I did monster 40s. So I've been around caffeine a lot. That's probably also the reason why I'm 5'7".
Is that a thing? So that actually is something that I was thinking about today leading up to this, was caffeine and sleep and people's sleep habits and what people tend to do. Yeah, if y'all could just see his face. What people tend to do when they haven't had enough sleep is they try to make up for it with caffeine, and it seems to perpetrate a cycle. So whenever you're working with clients and working on their sleep, is that one of those type of basic things that you look at, or are there other like low-hanging fruit items you can tackle first? Because I know a lot of people who would be really sad about giving up their caffeine.
I don't have any of my clients give up caffeine unless they want to. I'm not a fan of forcing people to do something they ultimately don't want to do, because let's be honest, like if someone told me, hey, you can't ever have caffeine again, the first thing I'd say is, fuck you. I'm going to go to Starbucks right now and go get some caffeine and drink it right in front of your face. That's just how I operate. So no one likes to be told like, oh, you can't have this anymore, or you can't have that anymore. And that's just perpetuated in the health and wellness space. And it doesn't necessarily work. If anything, it leads to more consumption and involvement of whatever activity that is a problem. With my clients, caffeine is usually a tertiary issue, meaning it's not the first issue that's preventing them from getting quality sleep. It's also not the second. It's like the third or the fourth. It's kind of like the cherry on top, so to speak. But a lot of people have this like misunderstanding of caffeine, that it gives you energy. Caffeine does not give you energy at all. For something to give you energy, it has to have some sort of caloric value behind it. And caffeine in and of itself has no caloric value. It just does not. Now, that said, caffeine works really well at delaying fatigue. When it works this by blocking the receptors in your brain that pick up fatigue, and it will stay in your system for at least 6 hours, if not up to 36 hours, depending on how much you've consumed. And this is where the issue with caffeine use comes into play. Either people consume too much of it over an extended period of time, and they don't actually ever cycle out of caffeine inside of their body, so there's always a residual amount, or they mistime it. Or three, you do both. But those are usually the big problems that I see. People who struggle with sleep and they're very reliant on caffeine, those are the problems that they have.
So it's almost like a dosing issue, or can be. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because think about it. Let's say I can speak from personal experience here. When I'm not tired and I had a great night's sleep, I'll typically only drink like maybe one, maybe 2 cups. If I get a poor night's sleep, I'm tempted to OD on the caffeine. Everybody goes through this, even me. So having that discipline with like, hey, I know I'm tired. I know I want 40 cups of coffee or 3 Trenta iced coffees, whatever it might be. Okay, acknowledge it and just ask yourself, is this going to actually help you tomorrow, or is it going to hurt you tomorrow? 9 times out of 10, the answer will be this is going to hurt me tomorrow, and they will make the right decision. The other one will make that decision out of just ignorance. And when they're educated on like how this all works, they immediately flip the script.
Yeah, because if you actually think about what the root cause of why you're tired, then you can actually have some more awareness and then take some action. Like, I don't know, go to bed earlier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stop the caffeine and just know like today's going to suck a little bit. You'll make it through and then go to bed.
Well, I can speak from firsthand experience, and all my clients who would OD on caffeine on their tired days. When we cut down on their caffeine on their tired days, they actually had way more energy later on than they did. Well, one, if they caffeinated themselves into a pickle, or number 2, some of them had more energy than when they got great night's sleep.
Dang.
So if anything, I direct my clients to, okay, let's say your average is 3 cups of coffee. Okay, when you're really, really tired, all right, 1 cup. Maybe 2, you want to go under your normal. Your body's already in a stress state. Keeping your stress levels higher is only going to create more problems for you down the road.
Agreed. Man.
Yes.
Well, I kind of skipped over having you talk about your background simply because I saw you. I was like, no, this is a great segue. Let's go for it. So I would love for you to share a little bit more about your background and how you became a sleep expert.
Well, I kind of just fell into this. It was not planned. Just like me being a personal trainer and nutrition coach for the past 15 years was not necessarily planned. I fell into this mainly because I was pushed into a sport at a very young age by my parents because they had no idea what to do with their hyperactive kid who was also very aggressive. So they're like, oh, hey, let's put him in football, get rid of some of that energy, right? Clearly, it somewhat worked, somewhat. But during my tenure playing football, when I got of age, all the coaches threw myself and my team into a weight room, and I fell in love with it. And within basically a couple months, I started directing people around the gym and helping where the coaches weren't able to help. So they made me in charge of the strength and conditioning for football team. And I loved it so much, I decided, hey, why not make a career of this? I don't necessarily want to just sit there and have a job or go into a career field I'm not passionate about. I'm passionate about helping people, and this was a vehicle for that. So I went to college, got my bachelor's degree in comprehensive kinesiology, really doubled down on developing myself as a personal trainer and nutrition coach as a career. And I landed in a very peculiar place after college. A good friend of mine opened a health and wellness center inside of an international airport. So to give perspective on the jump that I made as an individual and a coach, in college, most of my coaching clients were cocktail waitresses, bar back, baristas, stuff like that. So very vanity-oriented goals, very vanity-oriented. That's fine. But when I went over to an airport, one, nobody gave a fuck about washboard abs, 16-inch biceps, or bikini butt. They cared about just having enough energy to get through their day, getting out of pain,
Mm-hmm.
losing like upwards of 100 pounds that they put on over decades.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to figure out, okay, what do I do with this? Where do I even start? And a common problem that all of my clients that I've worked with one on one in that setting have had is sleep. And I knew from education and my own personal experience with sleep problems that if you don't tackle sleep first, the rest of the goals that you have, they're not going to happen. They're just not going to happen. Quality sleep is a prerequisite to health. It's a prerequisite to everything else. If you don't do this first, you're not going to get anywhere that you want to go. So I started placing an emphasis on helping all of my clients improve their sleep quality alongside with their health and wellness goals. And all my clients who really doubled down on their sleep, their goals came exponentially faster in the time frame that they were given, and they kept the results. That's the key right there, because who wants to lose weight if you're not going to keep it off? Absolutely nobody.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And one of the issues that a lot of very common like weight loss trends that happen in our industries, they either don't focus on sleep or they ignore it outright, and they create more of an environment where sleep quality is going to be low. And it's no wonder why so many people fail to keep the weight off, simply because they ignore this one vital process that literally controls every single part of your existence.
Yeah. Putting people on super low calories doesn't exactly make you sleep really well.
No, you might sleep fine for a couple of nights, but as soon as your body goes into a distressed mode, good luck. You will be up all the time.
Oh, yeah. And so many people are already stressed. So adding in these other stressors and then another stressor, oh my gosh. Yes. And there's no recovery. It's just such a bad cycle. Ugh.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so easy to get into that cycle. And it all starts with one poor night's sleep. One poor night's sleep, we all know that it'll affect your decision making the next day, specifically with what you decide to put in your mouth and do with your body. When you're in a stress state, if you're not conditioned enough to handle it, or your physiology is not resilient enough to handle that stress, your body will go into a survival based mode. You won't want to move. You're going to want to seek out instant gratification with what you put in your mouth to get the dopamine hit that you're looking for.
Comfort food.
Exactly. Comfort food. And comfort food has its place. There's nothing wrong with it.
Agreed.
It's how it's used. Doing this one night, because I don't even promise my clients that, hey, you're not going to suffer with sleep ever again. You're going to have nights where sleep's just going to be off. There's not much you can do about it because this is an imperfect world. But one night is vastly different than weeks, months, or years of this. And a lot of people that come to me have been doing this for months and years. That's a vastly different beast than just 1 or 2 nights here and there. When you're in a stress state, your entire physiology changes. And most people live in a stress state and they've been there for so long, they don't know what a natural state is or what it's supposed to feel like, which is scary to even think about.
Yeah. A lot of people don't even realize how much better they could feel and how much more energy they can have. Like, we're just so used to that. That's the normal, that's the baseline.
Yeah.
I know. I've definitely in my earlier single lady party days where it was lots and lots of work, lots of socialization, weekends out, and then Sunday spent on the couch, usually trying to just kind of eat, whatever you think soaks up the alcohol. Not my, that was in quotes, everyone. That's that comfort food state, and definitely did not bode well for me. Even when I was getting into health and fitness, when I was getting in the gym, man, when I cut that shit out, like, my results exponentially increased when I started just taking a little bit better care of myself and stopped partying every weekend, getting a little bit more sleep, watching out for all of the fourth meal crap, all the late night meals. Oh man. I mean, we had some good times, but I have noticed in myself a maturity in that stress response too, and becoming more aware of, like, when my recovery feels low, when I know that I've been pushing a little too hard, when I'm feeling a little bit more stressed out, and the foods that I tend to crave versus what I will actually get now is what I know that I need to keep myself going, energized, on track with my personal goals. And then if I need to take my ass to bed earlier, that's what I do.
It's like just setting a reminder or just parenting yourself and being like, this is what you need to do so that you can be at your best.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people go and do exactly what you just outlined. And you've touched on a really good like issue that a lot of people, both in like the health and wellness space and the sleep space, just completely ignore is our own biological clocks and our social clocks. So
Mm.
the clocks that we use in our day-to-day life are our social clocks. Seldom in the modern age do they actually line up with our biological clocks. Yes, we have a biological clock system inside of our bodies that controls when things happen, how much they happen, and to what degree they happen. So, for example, let's say someone's biological clock desires to have them up at 6 a.m. and in bed by, let's say, like 9 p.m. But their social clock keeps them awake until 11 p.m. or midnight. And thus, one of two things will happen. One, they will oversleep their time, which will affect how they look, feel, perform, and operate the next day, or they end up waking at the same time, both of which will alter their body's sleep cycle and their body's ability to actually go through each stage of sleep as needed. That sets up an environment that will lead to night after night after night of sleepless nights and stress filled days, simply
Mm-hmm.
because we're ignoring our own body's clock and we don't respect it in terms of, hey, it wants to do something now, you should probably do it. So our bodies have that timetable of when it wants to do things, specifically like when it wants to wake up and go to bed and rest, recover, whatever you want to call it. And very often we don't ignore the biological timeline. We only go off of our social timelines.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, again, there's nothing inherently good or bad. It's the degree in which it's practiced. For a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, we completely ignore our biology and we only live on our social timetables. That if it does not align, and then there are certain types of people where their social clocks are not going to line up with their biology, that can create an environment where stress will set in and it'll be very hard to get any type of quality sleep. And that will have a lot of repercussions down the road.
For sure. So when you say social clock, what comes to my mind immediately would be staying out late and having fun with friends. But could it also include just staying up, catching that extra episode of Netflix, series, or TV, whatever you like to stream your stuff on, working or scrolling? Like, would you say it also includes all of those things? The things that
Yeah.
people do because they don't want to miss out, because they want that time after the kids went to bed, because they just want that time to shut off and relax when technically sleep could could be extremely beneficial for all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just because you're not going out and gallivanting around town doesn't mean that you're operating within your biological timetables
Mm-hmm.
for these types of things, staying up and watching that extra episode, or just like, hey, not going to bed when you're tired. Like
Mm-hmm.
those seemingly trivial things that people just don't think about too much have a massive effect on how we operate the next day going into the next night. It's a
Mm,
domino effect and it can
absolutely.
either work for you or against you, but you get to choose where those dominoes go.
That's
That's the cool part.
that's the fucking key. Is you get to choose. You do actually have a choice. And
Mhm.
and it always reminds me of like the kid that refuses to go to bed. It's like we should be more excited about getting good sleep, but we still fight it.
Lots of people fight it.
Yeah, much to
Lots.
our detriment. Yeah, I've definitely been there. I pushed myself a couple of nights last week working on my website, and I knew after about 2 or 3 nights of that, I was like, I gotta get more sleep, gotta get better quality sleep. I gotta shut it off a little bit or finish up earlier, just because by Friday that sets me into like just kind of zombie mode, and I don't like that feeling. I don't like functioning that way.
Go
Got to
ahead.
have that awareness. You just got to be able to, like, you got to be able to, at some point, make the decision to help yourself. Take some responsibility and help yourself with that. But there are probably instances where people are really struggling and they're listening to this thinking, like, well, there's this or there's that. And it could be kids, it could be snoring partners, it could be maybe they work a third shift or really long shifts. And I definitely don't want to I don't want to disregard that. So what advice do you have? Like, let's start with snoring partners, because I know that I've personally struggled with that in the past. And it was a lot of like nudge, nudge, kick, like, please shut up, please turn over, please go to another room, or just going to the couch. So like, do you have any suggestions for people who deal with that on a normal basis?
Yes, absolutely, I do. So, the easiest way to deal with it that I recommend is get some sleep earmuffs. These are vastly different than like earmuffs you wear to go bobsledding or snowboarding or skiing or whatever you do to keep your ears warm. These are designed for you to actually be comfortable while you're sleeping, and they are designed to block out all noise, such as a sleeping partner.
This is amazing. I've only like earplugs, and those don't do anything for me.
No,
Like the
they're
little
actual sleeping like earmuffs.
Wow,
Yes.
that's amazing.
And they do have ones that are plug style that if you really want to make the investment in them, they're a couple $100, but boy, they are really, really cool. They are electronic noise canceling. So above a certain decibel, it will cancel out the noise and
Wow.
silence it. And they can create white noise as well, because there are some people who need some sort of what we call white noise to sleep, some sort of soothing sound or whatnot. Those types of people are usually like super sensitive to like anything that creates sound, and that's why they're used. So invest in some sort of hearing like blockers. That's what I recommend for that, just as a quick easy fix. Like this could be as cheap as legit like $10, and if you really want to make the investment, like then go up to a few $100, all of which are totally fine. The other thing that you could do is, well, have your partner look at their own sleep. And I do talk to some of my clients about this who have partners that snore. It's like, okay, well, is your partner's sleep quality high? Some people just snore. Some people do that, and there's not much you can do about it. But for a lot of people, at least in the modern age, there's a reason why they're snoring. Is the air too dry? Is it too moist? Are you dehydrated? Are you just at an awkward angle with a pillow? Like, there's so many things that it could be. And I always encourage my clients who have the snoring partners to help their partners improve their sleep, because often the snoring can be reduced or eliminated with just some lifestyle changes.
This is like a relationship saving tip right here. I feel like between the special earmuffs, and a little communication.
Yeah.
We're saving some relationships right here.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with, like, guys, there's actually no shame if, like, if your partner's just like, I just a loud snore and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Say, hey, like, I'm going to sleep in the other room, like, tonight or blank nights because I really need to get sleep. It's not that I don't want to sleep next to you or anything like that. It's just my hearing is super, super, super sensitive, and I wake up whenever you literally bellow.
Yeah.
So that said, you can't control it. You're sleeping. I'm just going to go in the other room these nights so I can get high quality sleep so I'm not a raging bitch next day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
that's simple.
Actually, just giving people, I don't like say permission, but permission to do that for themselves, you know, instead of being conditioned to just lay there and take it.
We are conditioned to lay there and take it. We're conditioned to just tolerate problems. That's one of the issues in our society that has had like so many damaging effects. Just tolerate it. Just tolerate it. Well, anybody who's listening to this, you will get exactly what you tolerate in your life. If you're tolerating sleepless nights, that's more of what you're going to get. If you're tolerating going to a job you hate, guess what? You're going to keep going to a job that you hate. If you're tolerating your physical appearance, even though you're not happy with it, that's what you're going to get. The cool thing, again, is you have the choice over what you decide to tolerate. And your life will change in any direction based off of what you choose to tolerate or not tolerate.
Facts. I love it. One thing that when you were telling your background story, and I already know this because listeners, Nick and I are in a mentorship together that is, I like to say it's pretty intense. It's high level, that's for sure. I would consider this high level. We're surrounded by really high level people. We're mentored by really high level people everyone's super fucking cool. And that's how we know each other. And I have noticed that you are just a natural leader. And so what I was thinking of when you were first talking about a kid who didn't have the outlet, that's do you feel like that is your outlet, is just having that, the leadership and coaching, and that gives you that outlet that you need for the energy that you have? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally it
Yeah.
does. And yeah, I would describe that as an outlet for
Yeah.
sure. I have always at heart been a go-getter, a high achiever, winning mentality. It's basically I succeed or I succeed either way. There is no failure like in my vocabulary. And not a lot of people like at an early age, like I was not in a lot of social circles based off of like I thought much differently than everybody else. And it took me a lot of self-sabotage and a lot of growing up to literally like embrace that. Yeah, I am, my default personality is natural born leader,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of people who need to be led. That's my purpose, that's my calling.
Mm-hmm.
The vehicles in which I use have changed over time, but if you can help somebody first, like lead them to the outcomes that they want and then lead them to leading themselves, that's the big W that I'm looking to have everyone who interacts with me, works with me at any level, circle. I want them to accomplish that, because when you figure out how to lead yourself, you literally have no limits. You are limitless in what you can accomplish. Your life has no glass ceiling. It is completely open because you mastered yourself.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. That's why I like being surrounded by folks like you. Just those solid reminders and something that I aspire to myself. So thanks. I always like a little leadership pep talk with Nick.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
I am going to circle back to sleep, obviously, because something that I want to emphasize is some of the big effects of the lack of sleep. And something that struck me in one of the NCI certifications, I believe it was the Live in Arizona last December.
Level
And
two.
yeah, yeah, I was
Okay.
there. That was my first live event, and I had just taken the first certification at like the end of October. I think we were talking about sleep and just some of the statistics of the amount of people that lack quality sleep. And I know that you probably would know these better than I do off the top of my head. And then just the amount of mistakes that can be made, even in like medical professions, based on lack of sleep. And I'm not trying to call out doctors or anything like that. Obviously, they're just humans. But the amount of car crashes that are caused by sleepy driving, it's actually quite shocking. And I think that people really underestimate, not just on like their own personal level, but just as a whole, like we underestimate the importance of sleep all the time. So if you have any stats that you would like to share, it's like something that I really want to drive home sometimes, is like, this is a big deal, you guys. And I think that we could, on a personal level, take it more seriously instead of allowing things to keep us up or keep us distracted, and just learning how to actually implement and get better sleep.
I can give rough stats. Like, okay, so when it comes to like poor sleep, one out of every two American adults has reported suffering from poor sleep. So we're looking at poor sleep quality when we're talking about poor sleep. Does that affect your decision making? Absolutely. Is there a stat behind that? There's a few. The one that stands out the most is 6,000 car crashes that are fatal each year. These are just fatal ones.
Mm-hmm.
They're not talking about ones that aren't fatal.
Mm-hmm.
6,000 crashes where at least one person died a year in the United States. Poor sleep, drowsy driving, it was responsible for that.
Yeah.
So
Insane.
if we're going to use the law of averages, let's say that was just one out of every two. So there's 12,000 crashes a year potentially that are caused by drowsy driving, and half of them are fatal. Again, that's not a true stat. That's just
Mm-hmm.
law of averages right there. So yes, poor sleep quality, it affects more people than you know.
Yeah.
Another stat to consider, the sleep industry is a multi-million dollar, almost $1 billion industry.
Wonder why.
So, and the most common things that are bought are sub $100. So we're talking about supplements, gadgets, all of the above. So that's an insane amount of people buying this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, there was a stat that said, was it roughly from one study, over 300,000 people used some form of a sleep intervention more than 3 times last year. And as we know, 2020 was a stressful year for absolutely everybody. I don't care who you are, what you're doing. There was some sort of perceived stress that was felt, and many people lost sleep as a result. And many of those people are still stuck into that cycle. So, I mean, just chew on those numbers. Almost $1 billion industry.
Yeah.
Hundreds of millions valued at. And the most commonly sold supplement is melatonin, which you can get at your local store for $8. That's insane.
Yeah. And so I think what I like to touch on here is that these things are not solutions. They may aid in the temporary fix of that problem, but they aren't the overall solution. It may be part of somebody's routine, I guess, eventually, if it is necessary. But the problem is that we skip over some of the other things that we could be doing, and we go straight to, I mean, it happens in all areas of the health and fitness industry. We just hop straight to a supplement. What can help me do this right now, rather than what could help me fix this long term? And I know that's where you come in. I know you probably get asked this question a lot. What are some of like the most simple, I'll put that in quotes because sometimes it seems simple, but it can take a lot of practice, and it can seem difficult at first because of our own stubbornness a lot of times. What are some simple ways for people to start to get better sleep?
The first thing that I have anybody who works with me do is you're going to set a hard cutoff time to end your day. And the whole purpose of this hard cutoff time is to, one, cease your activities. Like, we're active for the most part. We're doing something at least 8 hours a day in our society. That's an at least. So some people, I've been guilty of doing this too, and still do occasionally. It's easy to just work all the way up until bedtime and then try to go to sleep. For some, they might be able to do it, but for so many other people, it doesn't work well. If anything, it creates a stressful environment, and it prevents your body from actually going through the processes to switch from activity to recovery. So that is the whole purpose of a hard cutoff time in a nutshell. The secondary purpose of it is to create time for you, your family, what matters to you, whether that be like, your own personal decompression time with your kids, time with your significant other, or just time to just be at peace, doing whatever you want to do. A lot of people complain that I don't have time to do this, or I don't have the energy to do it. Okay, cool. We're going to create time in your day for you to actually do what you want to do. It's amazing how when somebody does that, their stress levels plummet dramatically, and their sleep quality improves just as a result. So that's one thing I have everybody who works with me do. Other things, and these are so simple. I mean, so simple. They're stupid simple. Like, you're going to sit there and think, oh, is that easy? Be consistent with your bedtime.
Consistency she's a lovely thing.
That is the name of this game. And consistency with the bedtime. I know some people just like rolling their eyes right now. I know your parents made you go to bed at 8 p.m.
But I want to stay up on the weekends because I can sleep in.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. There's nothing wrong with staying up. Do you have the time and the space to deal with the effects the next day constructively? If you do, by all means, go ahead and do it. Or are you running away from something? Ouch. Ouch. There's a reason why people suffer from poor sleep quality, and it hardly ever, if not just never, has anything to do with sleep. There's something else going on. But respect that boundary with your body. If you're not going to respect it with yourself, respect it with your body. Because your body has a timetable for when it needs to do things. If you give it the time that it needs, it will do it, and you will be rewarded with waking up feeling like $1 billion the next day. If you don't respect it, you will not feel like $1 billion. You'll feel like $2. Just being honest here. Just be honest. And then that leads me to my third piece of advice, keep your wake up time consistent. The whole notion of sleeping in is bullshit. If you're sleeping in constantly, something's amiss somewhere in your life. You need to address that, because until you address that, your sleep quality is going to be lower than you want it to be.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you have to get up at 4 a.m., win the day, blah, 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 blah. It's not what I'm saying. But if you're someone who likes to wake up between 7 and 8 a.m., continuously wake up at 7 to 8 a.m. more times than not. That's okay. Maybe on an off day, instead of being closer to 7, it's like 7:30, 7:45. That's fine. Be consistent. Your body loves consistency. It's wired for consistency. If you give it the environment to be consistent, and it's actually healthy and helping you, a lot of the problems that you have with sleep, if not all, will go away.
God, the
a lot faster than you think.
The rewards from consistency are like never ending, honestly.
Yep. Yep. And none of this stuff is
all facets.
Yeah. And like none of this stuff is seriously complicated. Like when people think sleep, they either think pop a pill or high level neuroscience that nobody can understand. And it immediately, either way you put it, it goes right through one ear and out the other ear. Like this is super simple, guys. Yeah. It is as simple as, oh, hey, you want to lose weight? Well, eat healthy and eat in a small caloric deficit over an extended period of time. It is that easy.
Yeah.
In theory, it is that easy. When practical application comes in, this is honestly where I'm of value to my clients, because there's going to be days where it's not going to go according to plan. So what the fuck do you do? Well, this is where you're going to have to learn through trial and error and action how to handle this, because I or any coach, we cannot sail the ship for you. We are not you. We cannot sail your ship. We can tell you how to sail the ship because we have a third person point of view, but you ultimately need to go do the work behind it. It goes back to that whole, when you learn to master yourself, you literally lose all limits. It's that.
Yeah.
Again, just packaged differently.
Why do you think that, and I think we've kind of already touched on this a little bit, but why do you think people choose to skip out on sleep so much?
Ignorance.
Yeah.
That's what I'd chop it up to be. If you lay out okay, Abby, you staying up till 1 a.m. is literally going to fuck your life over for the next 3 days. You're going to feel like crap. Your blood sugar levels are going to be significantly altered. Your insulin levels are going to be abnormal. You're going to look in the mirror and think that you're fat. And then you're going to stress out over that. And you're going to daintily eat. And you're going to overwork, but it's going to be strenuous work because it doesn't feel great because you have no energy. And you're going to do this process and be miserable for the next 3 days or weeks. Would you do that to yourself?
Oh, I'd also like to add that I'll be irritable, impatient, and generally have zero compassion for other people.
Exactly.
And not want to be social. That's also what happens when I get tired.
Exactly. So if I was to say that by you...
I actually hate being that way, so...
Exactly. So if I was to say that was your at least your immediate future for the next 2 days, would you go ahead and stay up till 1 a.m. or would you go to bed at 11 p.m.?
I would go to bed at 11 p.m.
Exactly, because now you have a very clear painting of the very painful future that awaits you if you decide to ignore your body's process. There are levels to this stuff. You inherently get to earn the ability to flex the sleep times. Just like with your clients and weight loss, okay, hey, when you're at your desired weight and you are able to maintain, you can have a day or two where you just kind of eat whatever the heck you want in the amounts that you want. You're not really going to have a problem. But if you're 50 pounds overweight and you want to lose weight, is that going to help you or is that going to hurt you? You have to earn that balance. Same thing with sleep.
Absolutely.
And most people aren't there yet. They're just not.
That's about, for me, it's been about really recognizing my own needs for recovery, my own stress resiliency. Like, how well do I handle stress? How long can I handle it? I've got a busy couple of weeks here. I know that for a couple of weeks, I can push myself a little bit as long as I'm getting good sleep, as long as I'm sticking to the foods that make me feel good, make me feel healthy, don't make me feel like shit. I don't drink a lot of alcohol, so that's not really a problem. And then also getting in movement, staying along, just keeping up with walks, at least if I can't make it to the gym. And hydration, which I have to say, I just tend to forget sometimes. Even me, I have to remind myself a lot. But I know that I can push myself a little bit until I need a day off, a weekend off. I know I can push myself a little bit. And I think that
Mhm.
coming into that awareness, God, it makes me feel like such an adult, number one. But it's been,
You're not wrong.
wow, amazing. But it's just helped me so much. And I think that what I like to help my clients with, what I want to teach, what I want to help people with through this episode and this podcast is just, becoming aware and being able to honor yourself, like you keep saying, like honor your body and listen to it because it's telling you what it needs, and creating resiliency and recovery routines so that you can perform at your best, be at your best, be there for yourself, for your friends, for your family, for your life. Because if you're just not showing up in the places that you need to, what are you doing? You're not
Exactly.
happy.
No, not at all.
Ugh,
And many people
it can be
grossly
miserable.
underestimate, like so many people just grossly underestimate how much recovery they actually need. And they overestimate what they can actually do.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I know
plus,
that's harsh,
yeah,
but here's the thing. Your ability to recover is directly tied to your ability to perform at a high level the next day. If your recovery is on point, you will be able to crush your day. You'll be
yeah,
able to get everything you need to get done. You'll have energy left over. You won't be tempted to sit there and just like sulk in front of Netflix and try to wind down all night long. And the same is true on the other side of the spectrum. If your recovery is poor, don't expect you're not going to sit there and perform at the high levels that you need to the next day. You're not.
mm-hmm.
You can perform at the highest level that you possibly can, but just understand that there is going to be a limit based off of your recovery level. If
Yeah,
it's 100%, you got 100% battery in the tank working with you. But if it's only 40%, you only got 40%.
absolutely. And we can help people have so much more in the tank than just 40 fucking percent. Like, it can be so much better. Is it safe to say that people who want to be the best version of themselves or who are striving for that every single day, people who want to be leaders or just simply feel better in their lives, they definitely crush some motherfucking sleep?
Yep. I have
Yes.
not met like one truly successful person who does not prioritize their health. And specifically, what is pointed out is their sleep, their exercise, and their nutrition. Ironically, but very truthfully, the three factors that sync your sleep cycle is light, exercise, and food intake. So sleep quality is not separate from anything else health wise. It one controls it, number two is influenced by it. So when you master one of those aspects, all the rest will have improvements as a
Mm-hmm.
result.
You guys,
And
this
that's
is,
exactly what I teach my clients how to do.
yeah, it's basic. This is the stuff that you have to come back to when you're struggling, well, with
Mm-hmm.
stress, with losing weight, with feeling like shit. Come back to your sleep, come back to your nutrition intake, come back to movement. It is that simple.
It is that simple. It is that simple. Simple does not mean easy, guys.
No, it absolutely doesn't. And that's okay. Like, nobody gets it perfect right away. This is stuff that I've learned after years. So, and this is why we
Yeah.
have, this is why we exist as coaches. This is why we have coaches to keep us, like, keep perspective and keep us grounded and aware of our own health too. Keep you in check. I want to know, Nick, do you ever, as a sleep expert, do you often have to check yourself when it comes to getting your sleep? His face says absolutely. I just think it's good for people to know that, like, just because you're a personal trainer or a nutrition coach doesn't mean that you have everything 100% in the bag all the time. So we're just humans
Ex-
too.
Absolutely. I'll be the first to say that the reason why why I know so much about this area is because I fucked it up so many times to know about it. Like, full transparency, I literally screwed up my sleep for 2 years in a row. Like, just sleepless nights, stressful days. It almost destroyed my business, lost lots of relationships over just basically me being a dick. I was not myself for 2 years. And I remember the night I literally was at my breaking point. I said, okay, I know I'm not taking this sleep thing seriously. So, you know what? Instead of leaving my TV on and falling asleep to it for the umpteenth time, I'm going to turn off the TV an hour before bed and I'm going to go to bed early and get a great night's sleep. It was great as I could because I knew where I was at. Anything would be better than where I was at. So when I woke up the next day, it all clicked. I felt great. All the stress that had been like literally pushing me into the ground was gone. I was better able to actually get the things I needed to get done. And I had energy left over for myself and the things that mattered to me. So if I could learn that, and I'm this health person and I know a lot about it, this can really change the lives of so many other people because this is a common issue. I'm not that special. I'm not a one-off person who deals with sleep struggles. There's so many people who deal with this on a day-to-day basis to varying degrees of severity or however you want to label it. But this was the key. Everything like my own health, that was the prerequisite. I was not focusing on my health. I let myself go. It's also ironically the worst injuries I had exercising occurred during those 2 years.
Yeah.
Like everything changed, not overnight, but for the sake of this conversation, overnight.
Yeah.
Because I had the power back and I was going to be damned if I gave that back up ever again.
Yeah. I like that because that's actually part of my, how I got into health. Well, how I got into the gym myself was just like one of those moments where I was like, fuck this. I'm not feeling like this anymore. I'm taking it back. I'm in control. I'm in control.
Yes.
And it's not the last time that I had to remind myself of that. Just saying. Like,
no.
It's been so many times. But I mean, thankfully, like, you know, this is one of those moments where you get to learn from somebody who's literally been there and been through the worst of it, almost lost a lot of important things because of what you teach on. And I'm thankful because I love learning from you. And I know that you are changing people's lives with what you teach. And it's so cool to see. It's so cool to see you grow. And I can't wait to see where you take everything. I won't share the things that I know, but dude, I'm super excited for your growth. So
yeah, we'll just say the industry is going to be shook and changed
whoop,
for the
whoop.
good, for the better, the better.
Let's do it. I wouldn't have it any other way. Listen, I expect nothing less from another fellow boardroom member. Okay. So if nothing else, you must live up to my expectations. I'm of course kidding.
Let me lose some sleep over that really quick.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I'm kidding, guys. But let's be real here for a second. How many of us live up to the expectations of other people that aren't our own? We stress ourselves out over it. Ugh. And we lose so much sleep over what somebody else thinks.
Dude, that is like the theme.
Little piece of like, not sleep advice, but sleep advice. If they're not paying your bills, don't listen to them. That's it.
I like it a lot.
That's it. If they're not paying your bills, why are you listening to them? This is the harsh reality there. I might get some flack for this. Bring it. Don't really care.
That is a hard thing to learn, is to let go of other people's expectations or what you think, or what like the stories that you've created that you think are their expectations. That's actually what it really is. And that's a big lesson, big thing that I've learned personally this summer, and it will fucking change your life.
Yes.
I feel like we could probably have a whole discussion on this, and I definitely will at some point, because it's boundaries, it's stories of limitations, it's people pleasing and perfectionism and a lot of other bullshit.
Correct. And this is the shit that keeps people up at night. This is the shit that stresses people out. Remember when I said your problem sleep isn't where you think it is? Here's where it is. We just touched on it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it's not even about being selfish. It's just staying true to yourself. Man, it's a lot. That's a lot to learn. Okay, well, we'll talk about that again some other time. Actually, I want to ask you super quick. What's your take on naps? I know some people tend to need them more than others, and some people might think that they are useful in the instance that they are not getting enough sleep. And that's actually, like, I know some people just thrive on having naps. kind of regardless. I'm not particularly one of those people. I only take one if I'm really, really tired. But what do you say when people are like, well, if I just take a nap, then that'll make up for the lack of sleep that I've gotten?
Well, the whole notion of like catching up on sleep is a myth, by the
Mm-hmm.
way. It's a myth. You can't catch up on sleep. Your body will come back to quote collect it over a period of time. This is
Ooh,
why I
I like
like
that.
hammer consistency with every single thing that I do. So naps, lots of people use them as band-aids. If you're using anything as a band-aid, doesn't matter if it's a nap, doesn't matter if it's a supplement. If it is band-aiding a problem, it is going to backfire on you. It
Mm-hmm.
is not going to help. It might delay some negative things from happening, but the problem is still there. And problems have a very nasty way of not aging well. Doesn't matter what the problem is. So check yourself. Are you napping because you actually find value in napping and it's helping you? Or, you're not setting up your day appropriately to get high quality sleep. And thus, okay, well, let's not fix that problem because I don't want to go there. So I'll just nap instead.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's not going to work out long term.
Yeah.
I've done it before. It does not work that well. Here's where naps work. If they are power naps, anywhere from about 10 to 30 minutes, cool, by all means. There's plenty of people who I have them use this strategy, and I emphasize power naps like 30 minutes. That's it. You're done. If you give your body more time to go through sleep stages, it will knock you out and go into deep sleep. And when that process is interrupted, you will feel like death. That's where
Mm-hmm.
naps can cause a problem.
That like
Most people,
grogginess.
yeah, your body's going to try to catch up on that sleep. It'll try to catch it up. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're at 30% battery, if you have the time technically to get it up to 70%, your body's going to try to take that.
Mm. It's
So
like
your
it's
30-minute nap, if it's not controlled, could end up into 2 or 3 hours. And now that's going to interrupt your sleep that
yeah,
night.
for sure.
That's the problem with naps.
Yep.
Like a little power nap here and there, it's not going to hurt you. But if that nap or the napping affects your ability to get high quality sleep the following night, that's when there's a problem that needs to be addressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. Thanks for clearing that up. I feel like that would be it's helpful for people who think about that. Actually, one of the ways that I used to get through my day or get up for my day sometimes when I was super busy and partying on the weekends was that I would like promise myself a nap later in the day if I had a break, which I rarely well, I never took a nap, but once in a while I would have time. This is in the my lash studio. I'd be able to close the door, turn the lights down, and just rest my eyes for a little bit. Sometimes that would help me,
Yeah.
just kind of like recollect or whatever. But that was actually something I would say to myself, like, just get up. You can take a nap later. Like, so stupid. Just go to bed on time.
Yeah. We
Just
love
take
to
care of
negotiate with
yourself.
ourselves.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I do it all the
Negotiate.
time.
And there's
I'm much
nothing wrong with negotiating with yourself if you're actually going to follow through.
Yeah, I'm much better these days at being on of erring on the more logical side of things because I do have debates with myself about a lot of other things too. Nick, are you a fan of books or audiobooks?
That I am, actually.
What is
Yes.
what's your current read right now
My current read
or
is
listen?
Winning Time. Well, read, listen. I just got done with Alex Hormozzi's book, $100 Million Offer. That was amazing.
Nice.
The one I'm in now is Winning by Tim Grover.
Okay, yeah, I've been hearing a lot about that one. Pretty sure that's been going around in the chat.
Well, you're surrounded by a bunch of people with a winning mentality. Yes, that's going to
Yeah,
come up.
well, yeah. What has been what's another book that you feel like has been very powerful for you in the recent or past, like something that sticks out in your mind?
Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of
Basically, the
that
whole
too.
premise of the book is everything's your responsibility, and you are the ultimate decider of where things go in your life. Doesn't matter if it's with your health, your business, your relationships, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Extreme ownership. And that is a trait of not only my most successful clients, but the most successful people in this world. In a nutshell, you are the sole person responsible for everything in your life. Where you are at right now is a culmination of all your decisions. Doesn't matter which way they went. If they didn't go the way you wanted them to, you got to look in the mirror on that one, because you're the person who made that decision.
Mm-hmm.
That, when I read that, and this was a while ago, that was one of the game-changing books from my life, Extreme Ownership. And ever since then, well, yeah, life has gotten much simpler. Didn't say it got easier. It got much simpler. And I became more effective as a human being, not only with my business, but with my relationships, my other social circles, and everything else that I'm doing as a result.
Absolutely. Radical responsibility and taking ownership and not playing the victim or blaming others is something that will shift your fucking life.
Yep, because everything's your fault.
Yeah.
Good and bad.
And then you just constantly have to work to bring yourself back to that awareness. And then look at what you can do, you know. So,
exactly.
I love it. I love it. Well, Nick, this has been delightful as always.
Always.
I want to thank you so much for your time. Tell the listeners where they can find you.
So the easiest places to find me and connect with me, and I do truly connect with the people that I come into contact with, is Facebook and Instagram. My handle is my first and last name smashed together. It's Nick Reill. I also have a private Facebook group called Sleep Secrets, where I do deep dives into everything sleep. This was just a taste of what we talk about inside of that group. We do deep dives in there all the time, and there's people in there who are changing their lives in so many different ways, but just focusing on improving their sleep quality. It's an absolutely amazing group. I would love for you to be a part of it should you desire, but that's where you can find me.
And tell my listeners how they can learn from you if they, which they probably do, need to improve their sleep quality.
For sure. So inside of my group Sleep Secrets, I have my ebook, which is ironically named Sleep Secrets.
It's fantastic, by the way.
38-page guide that is designed to take you from sleepless nights and stress-filled days to the exact opposite, sleep-filled nights and stress-free days, when the 7 sleep secrets are applied. So that guide is available to everybody inside the group. I also just released a new guide called Night Routine Secrets. This details out the 3 best kept secrets to building a killer night routine that is pro sleep quality. Both of those are available inside of my group.
Amazing. And I know, don't sleep on this, folks. Haha, pun intended. I always like to throw that in there. I know that you will learn something, because I've learned something, and I thought, I've learned quite a bit about taking care of myself, but your Sleep Secrets ebook is amazing. It's very well done. And even I was like, yeah, there's some things I can work on myself here. So amazing. I love it. Go join his Facebook group. He is always offering, I like the vibe that you have in there. I love that you check in with people and that you're offering you offer a lot of education in your group as well. And it's always incredibly valuable. So I encourage everyone to join the Facebook group. And Nick, thanks so much for coming on Crushing with Abio. I really appreciate you spending part of your day with me.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate you.
That was amazing. Always love chatting with Nick. We learned a lot about sleep and we got inspired. Definitely go join his Facebook group, Sleep Secrets, and grab copies of his Sleep Secrets ebook and his Night Routine Secrets. I guarantee that you will find at least 1 or 2 things in there that will help you improve your sleep quality tonight. Thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you next week. Thank you for tuning into the Crushing with Abio podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, go ahead and subscribe or follow. And please leave a 5-star review while you're there. Share this podcast with any of your girl or guy friends that you know could use an extra laugh once a week. You can also find me on Instagram at abio.fit. That's ABBYO.fit. Talk soon.